All right, so TikTok, right? I bet you've heard a lot about the potential ban in the US. We're going to really take a deep dive into this whole story. It's complicated. We're talking about like international politics, data privacy, even former President Trump. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's one of those things that just grabs you. I mean, it's not just about one app, is it? It's like this much bigger story about where things are going with technology.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's like freedom versus security online. But okay, let's start at the beginning. So we've got TikTok. Everyone knows it. Tons of people using it, sharing videos, even politicians, right? But now it could be banned here, all because of the parent company, ByteDance, being based in China.
Right, and that's where things get sticky with the whole national security thing. People are worried, and I think rightfully so, that the Chinese government could get their hands on user data. Like, that's kind of a big deal, right?
Oh, absolutely. Data is everything these days. And that's why President Biden signed that law. You know, the one that could ban TikTok starting January 19th?
Yeah, unless ByteDance sells off their U.S. part of the business, which is a big if.
Oh, yeah, huge. So there's this law, but to make things even more complicated, TikTok went to the Supreme Court asking them to, pause the ban.
Right, so we're all just waiting for the Supreme Court to decide. There's like a legal cliffhanger.
And it's not just about the app disappearing, right? If they say yes to the ban, we could see it yanked from app stores, maybe even completely shut down here.
Yeah, and think about the users. So many people, especially young folks, rely on TikTok. They connect with friends, they express themselves. It would be a big upheaval.
Like a digital earthquake. But, okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Remember back in 2020, President Trump wanted to ban TikTok.
Yeah.
Well, now he's like TikTok's biggest fan.
Total plot twist, right? I mean, we have to remember back then, Trump issued that executive order. He wanted to ban TikTok. And his reasons, same concerns we hear now. Data collection, the Chinese government potentially misusing it.
Exactly. It wasn't just, oh, these dance videos are silly. It was serious stuff, like tracking government employees, maybe even blackmail or spying on companies. High stakes.
For sure. And those concerns are still valid. But now, Trump's singing a different tune. He's actually defending TikTok, especially for the young people.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Like a complete 180. And he didn't just say, oh, maybe it's okay. He actually called it a fantastic platform, the same guy who tried to ban it.
Makes you wonder what changed his mind. But it gets even weirder when you bring in Mike Waltz, his incoming national security advisor.
Oh, right, Waltz. He's super important in all this. And even he's trying to figure out how to keep TikTok around, while still dealing with the data worries. He said something like, we'll find a way to keep it, but protect people's data. Sounds like he doesn't want to just ban it outright.
Yeah, it's not black and white, is it? They get the concerns, but they also see that the platform is valuable, especially for users. Tough balancing act.
No kidding. On one hand, there's this risk, right? A foreign government potentially having all this data. But on the other hand, what if we ban an app that millions of Americans use? Doesn't that mess with free speech rights?
Yeah, and Trump's making that argument now. He's saying it could set a really bad example for censorship globally. Like if we do it, others will follow. And he called the whole thing a big First Amendment problem. Maybe it's weird, He tried to restrict the app before, and now he's Mr. Free Speech.
It's a head scratcher for sure. But let's think beyond just free speech. There's the whole tech industry to consider too, right?
Absolutely. What if the U.S. banning an app just because it's from a certain country scares away investors? What if nobody wants to fund the next big thing because they're afraid of getting banned? That would be terrible for innovation.
Like a freeze on the entire tech world. Nobody wants to risk it. So we come back to this huge question. How do we balance keeping the country safe with keeping the internet free?
Billion-dollar question. And there's no easy answer. But the TikTok situation is really forcing us to face it.
It's bigger than just TikTok, isn't it? This is about the whole future of the internet. It really makes you think, Freedom of speech, keeping the country safe, the whole internet thing. Where do we fit into all of this? Like, even if I don't use TikTok personally, this still matters, right?
Yeah, for sure. Whether you're making TikToks or just scrolling through Facebook, this whole situation brings up these big questions about data, online censorship, the government getting involved online. It affects everyone.
Let's talk about data privacy. There's all this talk about TikTok maybe sharing stuff with the Chinese government. It kind of freaks me out a little. It makes you wonder, how much are we giving away every day without even realizing it?
Right. It's a valid concern. And it's not just TikTok. Most of these social media companies, they're collecting tons of information about us. What we like, who we follow, even where we go. It's all being tracked. And let's be honest, most people have no clue how the data is being used.
It's like we agree to use their app, and in exchange, we hand over our privacy almost without thinking. This whole thing is making people stop and ask, is it even worth it?
It's a tough question. Like, do we even own our data? Should companies be more upfront about what they're doing with it? No easy answers there.
And then think about the censorship angle. If they can ban TikTok, what's next? Could they ban anything? Where's the line?
It's a slippery slope, right? A lot of people are worried about that. They think this could give governments all over the world an excuse to control what people see online, to push their own agendas.
So freedom of speech, but online. Like, are we moving towards a world where we can't say or see certain things? That's kind of scary.
Definitely. And it all leads back to the question of what should the government be doing about the internet? It's like they're trying to walk a tightrope. They need to protect people, but they can't control everything.
Yeah, like on one hand, they have to keep us safe from online threats, but too much control, and that could stifle creativity and limit what we can learn and share.
That's it. Finding that balance is tough. We need security and freedom. And the whole TikTok thing, it's making us think about this on a global scale.
It's a global conversation. Do we want a future where everything is super controlled? Or do we want a more open internet, even if it means there's some risk involved?
Exactly. These are big questions. And what's interesting is this isn't just a left or right issue. People on both sides are worried about censorship and the government having too much power.
Like, TikTok is just the tip of the iceberg, right?
Totally. It shows how everything is connected. Technology, politics, our own rights as individuals. Whatever happens with this case will have huge ripple effects down the line.
It's history in the making, you know? We're watching it happen.
Yeah.
And the decisions made today will change how we use tech and information for years to come.
That's why it's so important to really understand what's going on. It's not just news. It affects all of us.
It's a good reminder that we're not just sitting here watching the internet happen. We're part of it. And the choices we make matter.
That's powerful. We have a voice. We have a say in what the digital world looks like.
So while we're all waiting for the Supreme Court, let's ask ourselves some big questions. What kind of online world do we want? How do we find that balance between security and freedom? What should the government's role be?
Those are the conversations we need to have.
Because the internet isn't some fixed thing. It's constantly evolving, and we're shaping it every day. So we've talked about all the worries, the people involved, the whole timeline of how we got here. But the million-dollar question is, what's next? What could happen to TikTok? And what does it mean for, regular users?
Right. Let's think about the most extreme scenario. The Supreme Court says, yep, ban it. And TikTok's gone in the U.S. Poof. No more viral dances, no more funny sounds, no more endless scrolling.
That would be a big deal, wouldn't it? Social media would look totally different. Millions of people, especially young folks, would have to find new apps. Yeah. Maybe Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts would take over.
Maybe. It's hard to say. But it'll be a huge change, for sure. And for TikTok and ByteDance, that would be a disaster. They'd lose a ton of money, a huge market.
And think about what that says to other tech companies. Basically, the U.S. government is saying, we'll shut you down if we think you're a security risk, especially if you're a foreign company.
Yeah, it could make companies think twice about doing business here. And who knows? Maybe other countries would retaliate. What if China bans Facebook or Twitter? It could get messy.
Yikes. Not a good picture. Okay, so let's say the opposite happens. The Supreme Court says TikTok can stay.
Phew. Relief for TikTokers everywhere. They can keep making videos, the trends keep going. It would be a win for anyone who wants a more open internet.
But even if TikTok survives, the security concerns won't just disappear, will they? I'd imagine there'd be even more scrutiny, like everyone watching their every move.
Definitely. People will be demanding more oversight. Maybe they'll have to keep all the U.S. user data here in the U.S. On U.S. servers, or maybe independent groups will check to make sure they're not sending data to the Chinese government.
So even if they get to stay, it'll be a lot different. Like, they'll have to work hard to earn back people's trust.
Oh yeah, big time. Now there's one more possibility, kind of a middle ground. What if the Supreme Court says, okay, ByteDance, you have to sell your U.S. part to an American company?
Like a compromise.
Exactly. So TikTok basically becomes American-owned, which would theoretically solve the security worries, but the app could still exist.
TikTok, but with an American boss. Maybe some new rules, too.
Right. It could make both sides kind of happy. Security concerns addressed, and the platform lives on.
Well, those are some of the possibilities, but to be honest, who knows what'll happen? The Supreme Court is unpredictable.
True. But one thing's for sure, this whole thing shows just how complicated things are now. How do we keep the country safe and protect people's freedoms? How much power should the government have over what we do online? Tough stuff.
Yeah, it's like a whole new world with technology and global politics all mixed up.
And it's important to stay informed, to talk about these things, to really think about the choices we're making as individuals and as a country.
Because whether you love TikTok or just care about the internet in general, this affects all of us. We're not just watching this happen. We're part of shaping the future.
That's a powerful way to put it.
It really is. So keep learning, keep asking questions, keep diving deep. This has been The Deep Dive, and thanks for listening.